Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, hello, I am Elle. I am a fitness coach and I post over here and on Instagram at ElleFitnessPT. So if you want more regular content there, go give me a follow. I will put the link here to my page. But today, essentially, I just want to talk about muscle building, more specifically the glutes, and talk about how I've grown my glutes over these years and some of my top tips from my personal experience. Obviously, it's going to be different person to person, so what may work for me may not necessarily work for you, but these are my top tips which I found have worked for me and a lot of my clients, both online and in the gym. So hopefully you'll find something helpful in this video. I'm going to be taking you along to the gym with me to show you some of my favourite glute exercises which I feel have really played a big role in my glute growth over the years. And then I'm going to talk you over my top 4 tips on glute growth. So if you do like this video, then please be sure to subscribe to my channel and drop it a like, just so I know what sort of content it is which you want to see from me. And then let's get into the video. So first things first, number 1 is going to be consistency. You've probably heard it 100 times before, but consistency is key, and you're going to want to make sure that you are staying consistent in your journey in terms of muscle building. So it's not going to be a quick process. It's not going to be a 1 to 2 month thing which you sort of stick to for a couple of weeks and then expect to see amazing results. It's not going to happen like that, especially when it comes to building muscle. Muscle building is a slow process, and unfortunately it does take time. You want to be spending at least 6 months in a building phase in order to build a substantial amount of muscle mass, and even that is going to be a very short amount of time as it is. It's going to take you years to grow muscle. It's not taking me a couple of months to go from A to B. It's taking me a good 4 years to get to where I am today. So in order to build muscle, what you want to do is make sure you are focusing on that consistency, showing up for yourself each day, and that is in terms of your training, your sleep, your nutrition. Now, I'm not saying every day is going to be perfect, because that's definitely not the case. I've definitely had days where my nutrition has been off, my training's been off. I've actually had weeks where my training's not been the best or my nutrition's not been the best, but overall, over the 4-year period, I've been consistent. I've stuck at it. I'm still going to the gym. I'm still tracking my calories, and I'm still focusing on progressive overload in the gym, which I'll talk on a little bit later. But the main thing here is you need to be consistent. It's not a short-term thing, you're here for the long term in terms of muscle growth. And in terms of consistency as well, you want to make sure that your exercises are consistent. So I'll talk a little bit about training shortly, but I'll talk a little bit about exercise selection in a little bit, because that's going to be a separate tip in itself. But in terms of your consistency with your exercises, you want to be making sure that you're sticking with the same movement patterns in and out. So we don't be changing workouts every single week, because that's not going to benefit you. You're not going to shock your muscles by doing that. You're not going to get better growth by doing that. You're going to stint your growth by constantly changing your workouts up. So try to stick to the same exercises week in, week out, and that's when you'll see the best growth happen. Tip number 2 is going to be all about your nutrition. Now, you're probably expecting this tip because nutrition is such a key role in any sort of goal you've got, whether that's fat loss, maintenance, or muscle growth. Nutrition is key, so you don't want to neglect this. So when it comes to building muscle, you want to be ideally in a surplus. Yes, you can grow muscle in a maintenance and a little bit in a fat loss phase, but in order to get the best output for your muscle growth, you want to be eating in a calorie in a calorie surplus. So by this, I mean you want to be eating more food than your body is expending on a day-to-day basis. With this, you want to make sure that your protein is nice and high. And when I say high, I don't mean it needs to be 200 grams per day. Just around 0.8 to 1.2 grams per pound of body weight. I would aim for the upper end of that for a muscle growth phase. A tip for getting protein in throughout the day is I try to have protein in with every meal. So around 25 to 35 grams, if not more, grams of protein for every meal you're having. Let's say you have 4 meals per day. That is 100 to around 120 grams of protein in just from your meals alone. And then you've got a protein shake on the side, potentially some protein snacks. And when it comes to nutrition, you want to make sure your calories are coming in from ideally more whole foods. So not fast foods, not takeouts, not loads of restaurants, just to try and get the calories in. This will help to limit the fat gain during the muscle building process. And when I say that, you will get some fat gain during a muscle growth phase, just because you are eating more calories than your body is expending during the day. And whilst a lot of that will convert into muscle in the long term, you will accumulate a little bit of body fat on the way, but that's something that you need to sort of get comfortable with in this process, because the actual muscle growth phase, the benefits of that outweigh the slight fat gain that you're going to get. And then you can always run mini cuts throughout your bulking phase and throughout your gaining phase to help strip back any of the excess body fat you have built up, which may lead you feeling a little bit uncomfortable during that phase. But you need to get comfortable being uncomfortable in a muscle building phase. That would be my top tip for that. Tip number 3 is going to be your training. So I mentioned earlier that we need to be sticking to a solid routine week in, week out. We need to be sticking to those same movement patterns and focusing on progressive overload throughout. So you'll see in a lot of my training, I do the same lifts. So I do the same compound lifts week in, week out. So I'm going to take you along to the gym with me, and I'm going to show you a workout which includes some of the exercises which I've been doing religiously over the years, week in, week out. These are my holy grail staple glute growth exercises. Yes, there are other exercises which will do the same. So as long as you stick with them over time, you will get results. But these are my top holy grail exercises which I feel have really attributed to my glute growth over the years. First up, we have Romanian deadlifts, otherwise known as RDLs. Now, I would say these are my holy grail glute exercise. So if you want to build your glutes, then definitely try and include a movement like this into your routine. So this is a hinge-based movement, meaning that we are hinging from the hips. So the glutes are going back. What I tend to do with these is I think about it as a backwards and forwards movement from the hips, as opposed to an up and down with the upper body. And that's going to get you a lot more engagement in the glutes if you think about it that way, because it's going to help reduce any lower back recruitment. So the main thing with these RDLs is you want to make sure that you're sticking in the glutes active range, as that's what's going to help you put the most tension on the glutes. What you'll find is a lot of people go down way too low past the active range, and that's when you complain that you get lower back pain and soreness. So if you try and keep the movement in its active range, and by this I mean stop the movement when you can't push your hips back any further, and then drive the weight back up, avoiding squeezing the glutes at the top, because again, this isn't going to benefit the glutes. Next up, we have another holy grail for me, and that is a step up. You can do these with dumbbells, but I personally prefer doing them on the cable machine. I find these get such a good glute engagement on these. With these, what you want to do is focus on keeping your shin vertical in the front and avoid bouncing off that back foot. Simply use it to tap on the ground and then drive yourself back up, using the force generated from that front foot. If you have a forward torso lean, that's going to help to stretch the glutes that extra bit further. So try and maintain that throughout and keep this movement nice and controlled throughout. And you should hopefully feel a really good engagement in this in your glutes. So following up from this, we have the hip thrust. This isn't my personal favourite movement, but it is one which is going to be good for glute growth, so I have included it in here. The main thing for me is just a setup. I find it an absolute pain in the arse to set up, but it is a good exercise, and you can load this quite well and progress in this, as this is a compound move, so you're going to be able to progressively overload in this and get quite heavy on your reps. So I've started out here with just a warm-up set. So I'm just going through the movement here. I'm playing around with my partials and my different ranges of the glutes, so the shortened and the lengthened ranges, and then we're going to go into our heavy sets, our top sets for these. And with these, what you want to do is make sure your head is facing forward and make sure the movement is coming from the hips, so trying to avoid hyperextending the lower back, as that's again going to cause you that back pain. Typical rule of thumb is to have your shins vertical on these to get the most glute engagement out of them. You'll find a lot of the time you might get more quads and more hamstrings, and that is probably to do with where your feet are. So too far away, you'll get more hamstrings. Too close to the body, you'll get a bit more quad. So with these, make sure we're fully locking out at the top. Really squeeze your glutes at the top to get that full contraction, and then come down nice and slow. And then finally coming up, we have a 45-degree hyperextension. So on these, again, like with most, you want to stick in the active range. So don't come down too far and don't come too far up, because that's going to start to recruit your lower back. But what you want to do here is think about pressing your hips into that pad, squeeze the glutes throughout, and make sure the movement is nice and controlled. And then what you want to do is you want to make sure that you're hinging from the hips on these. So if your pad is too high, that'll cause you to get a little bit of lower back in there, because you won't be able to hinge properly. So make sure the pad is set just below your hips so you can pivot over the pad comfortably, and you're going to get a lot of glute engagement in that. And tip number 4 is going to be progressive overload. So as I mentioned before, you want to be sticking to the same exercises, and your exercise selection doesn't really want to change that much, especially when it comes to compounds. But in terms of your progressing in the gym and your training, what you want to do is make sure that you are progressive overloading in the gym. And that can be from various factors. That can be from the amount of repetitions you do on an exercise, that can be the weight lifted, that can be the time under tension, so the tempo which you actually do the exercise itself. All of these things all count towards progressive overload. So let's say you have a rep range of 10 to 15 reps and you're hitting 15 reps on every single set, then that is an indication that you can probably, more than likely next time you do this exercise, increase the weight a little bit. Whereas if you were hitting 10, 11 reps on that same exercise, then I'd probably aim for an additional 1 potential rep in that next week's session, just to try and always work towards that progressive overload. And some weeks you may not get it. For instance, you may be during your period, you may have had bad sleep that day, your energy may be lower, you may be stressed. As you look at a trend over a couple of weeks, you should see that you're progressing in your weights, in your reps over time, and that's what's going to give you the best muscle breakdown, which is going to help you ultimately grow muscle long term. Bear in mind that you do have your diet in check, you are in a calorie surplus or at least at maintenance, and you are being consistent in the gym. If you're looking to grow your glutes and you're looking to follow a plan which is going to help you get there, then I do have a free PDF sample plan linked in my bio below. I will link it down there for you. If you just click on that, you'll get it sent to your email address, and it's just going to be a PDF going over the key terms in terms of fitness. So progressive overload, it'll go more in detail on that. It'll go through warm-ups, it'll go through scheduling your week, and it's just going to give you a sample plan of workouts that I've done in the past and I do now in order to help you to grow your glutes and make progress in the gym. So if you do want a copy of that, it's completely free of charge. Just click the link in my bio to access that. And if you like this video, again, please don't forget to give me a subscribe and drop me a like, because I really do appreciate it, and it really does help me find out what it is you like to see. But any questions, drop them in the comment box below, and I will speak to you next time.